I didn't optimize for ADD, wasn't trying to get to the end as quick as possible. What is my goal? Every single thing I do always has to have a purpose. The statistics should not be the number one, but all of them have to have a goal that helps you across your journey. Focusing on the audience instead of you. Like, it's YouTube, but it's about them.
So I'm here today with Craftee. Actually, this is his first time, I think, showing your face on camera too. So why don't you give us some context about just your channel and what you've done so far?
So I'm technically the VO artist for Craftee.
If we're gonna stop a time villain, we need to become a time hero.
I've been making videos on that channel for about 3 years now. Vlog.zip, who's a YouTuber friend of mine, he was making these separate channels, and he was like, you wanna hop into film? And so we partnered up with this channel. The third month, we had one video that exploded, got a lot of subscribers from it, and then the custom hearts. That was the first video that blew up, as we got 117 million long form views in the matter of 30 days.
So what was your first YouTube channel actually? Because it wasn't Craftee, right?
Oh goodness, my first ever YouTube channel, it was my dad's YouTube channel. And I posted one video on it called I Suck at Skateboarding, but some of the comments were hate comments. And so my dad was like, oh, we gotta take this down. Took it down. I was like, well, I'll make my own channel then. And then Parker Games channel, then Mindplex, and then just kind of moved on from there.
So how about let's talk more about your history with Hollywood acting, because you actually did like quite a serious level of like real type of acting. So what was that like?
Oh man, so I moved to LA when I was 15, and I did the whole thing, acting classes and etc. In between auditions is when I'd be making videos. Ended up later on that my YouTube videos became kind of the inspiration for creating a pilot episode for Disney XD, who was doing a gaming block. They wanted to, hop into the gaming space, so they picked up Parker Plays, which is like a Let's Play kind of show, but we had a TV budget, and that was really exciting. And it was interesting to go from YouTube, where I would film everything just by myself in my room, to see the difference between like a YouTube piece of media and then a television piece of media was so fascinating. We're both making the same type of content, and to see the difference on how that's created, I think was really interesting.
It's so cool to see like content creators come from a more traditional background, because I think so many people start with YouTube and they try to get into acting, but then it seems like certainly you did have some YouTube roots at the start, but it's almost like you did the reverse.
Yes, a lot of ways. And then how they formed their story was interesting. Get a lot of feedback from them when it comes to like storytelling, and like getting the audience to understand what is happening throughout the entire process was something I never had to think about before. And so that has really led me to think about content differently, later on as I'm filming.
Yeah, so how did it make you think about content differently?
I think a big thing that people don't think about is having people join you on an adventure versus watching you do something. This note came back over and over and over again from the executives, which was annoying because like they don't know gaming. We had a side scroller, like Mario. Mario's a side scroller. Everybody knows how Mario works. And they were like, you have to explain how the game works. And I'm like, why? It's Mario. What do you mean? Because people that didn't know about gaming or didn't know about the content had to be led into to understand what's going on. And that really made me think, because if you just assume that everybody just knows what's going on at all times, you're gonna lose people over and over again as they're watching it. So as I'm filming Craftee, every single thing I do always has to have a purpose and intention throughout it. And then from it has to have some kind of reward that I get for it. Sign me up for what you're doing and why you're doing it so I can join you on that journey.
So if you had to put that strategy into like a clear, concise formula where you have each little element, what does that look like?
So there's the goal, there's the purpose of that goal. And so what we're trying to do is we're accomplishing this. And why are we doing that? Because we need to do this because we get a reward for it. And how are we doing that? That's gonna be our game loop, essentially. Now they can join me on the how. They already know why, and they know what that reward is at the end. They can buy into that adventure.
Do you have some examples of like specific things you did for that, maybe from your most recent videos?
Helping someone, saving someone, doing something for someone else.
This Minecraft world is in the middle of the most dangerous zombie apocalypse ever, but I have to find the cure and save the world.
You can establish goals for yourself, but if you think about a story that somebody's telling you, and they're telling you about all these cool things they did for themselves because they liked it, you're not gonna be as invested or interested as hearing about somebody who was like, this kid needed X, and so I did X, and I wanted to do X.
Right. I bought this rundown school, and I'm gonna renovate it to be a lovely bastion of education. But it's quite a mess at the moment, so I'll be week cleaning it, gathering supplies, and hiring staff to bring my vision to life.
It could be a fabricated story of a villager that I have a conversation with, and then I make a little voice, or I have him speak back to me, and then Craftee can have this reason why something is happening, and then satisfying the entire arc. I see this happen over and over again with people's content, is by the end, they're like, well, you know, it's you've got 30% people watching, 25% of people, we're just kind of end it. And it's like, well, no. Like, no one's gonna come back to the end if they're invested with you on this journey, and then you go like, okay, kill the dragon, thanks so much. So I really try to see how I can take an ending to really feel like, wow, you did it, you accomplished that. Give those people that watch to the end, those biggest fans of yours, the most satisfying ending you possibly can, because those are people that are gonna come back and watch the next video until the end. Those are the big fans.
So let's go back to finishing out like the story of how you got into doing Craftee. So when you finished up like the Disney Channel work, you were moving on from that. How did you go from that to eventually what became doing Craftee?
I was making, Minecraft or just general gaming content on appropriate games, and then I hopped into streaming. It was kind of like 2019, 2020. Blog.zip, who was a YouTuber friend of mine, and he was like, you want to hop into film? And so our first month, kind of nothing, like a couple hundred views per video. Second month, kind of nothing. I was like, okay, it's worth a shot. The third month, we had one video that exploded. Man, it was everything I touched turns to gold. We hopped on that trend, and that one, it got like 1 million views in the first day. And so I came into film, and their team did the post-production and the pre-production and getting the mod packs created. And it became this really nice partnership. It just maintained just this absurd level of viewership. But we just kept doing 2 to 3 videos a week for the last like 3 years now. And we're approaching 2 billion views.
That's outstanding.
All long form. Isn't that
long
insane?
Form, yeah. That's crazy.
Insane.
So what do you think are the things that separated the content that really blew up versus what you were doing previously?
Custom Hearts in particular, you can see the earlier videos versus Custom Hearts. The first 3 minutes of the first Custom Hearts video, we make no progress. Almost zero progress. I'm goofing off, I'm talking to villagers, I'm dying and falling. Like there's no, at that point in earlier videos, we'd have been 7 items in at that point. 7 kind of beats in. I didn't optimize for AVD, wasn't trying to get to the end as quick as possible. I just was trying to make the most funniest piece of content I could with what I had.
Yeah, so what are some of the things that you've done outside of just practice and passion to make yourself more funny, more entertaining, that you could then apply to your YouTube content?
The biggest thing that I recommend to all creators that are making entertainment content is classes, acting classes and improv classes. You're making a piece of entertainment content. So you should hone the skill of entertainment. I'm not saying you have to necessarily to make it work, but you have to, it's a muscle. And if you're not working out that muscle, then how are you going to make that content the best that you can? Do it.
So let's talk more about Craftee and your content decisions there. So I don't know how much you're necessarily working on ideas, but how does the Craftee team just in general come up with and think about ideas for your YouTube content?
So I think a lot of it comes in looking at what has worked for us in the past, looking at what has worked in the platform, and then merge them together to see if they work together. I think is something that they kind of focus on.
Okay, so you talk a lot about the Craftee team. So what does the overall team actually look like for the YouTube channel?
So Blog.zip's company, they run the pre-production and post-production. And so that would be anything you would have on a pre-production, post-production team. And then I come in to actually film that content.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about specifically making videos for kids. Since I think, is it fair to say that Craftee is targeted towards kids?
I would say the majority of the audience is going to be young. So many creators underestimate how young their audience is. It's important to remember that kids are watching,
Yeah, so with that in mind, like what are some things you do with your content to either appeal to kids or just keep kids in mind when you're making the videos?
The motto I have for Craftee is that, he's always trying to help someone. Of course, you've got swearing and inappropriate language, but you also just have general positivity. And that's kind of the main focus I have is if I envision my 5-year-old niece watching my content, because she does, that I have to remember that what do I want her to take away from this piece of content? What are the moral values that you have in yourself? And what moral values do you want to influence in the new generation with? Because that's what, we are the SpongeBobs of this generation.
That's amazing, man. Like, I think it's really awesome that you guys are taking that seriously because so many creators really don't. So what advice would you give to a creator who's making videos for kids or maybe wants to make videos for kids?
I have 2 things. I think the first one is if you were right now talking to a family member in your life, what are the positive things you want them to take away from? Being brave, being confident in who you are, helping others, etc. I think those are really important to think about. 2 is high energy. It's very important to be very excited.
I've been turned into a helpless blob.
If you think about SpongeBob, you think about SpongeBob has has one of the most annoying voices of all times. It's, you know, high pitched and and then you have Patrick, which is and then you got, you know, Mr. Krabs, which is and then you got Plankton, which is so they have all these different voice fluctuations, which I think was a helpful thing when I was growing up to keep myself engaged. And so I hear all the time content creators that have this same flat voice throughout the entire piece of content. And I think vocal tone change and high energy are really important pieces to keep people engaged and interested, rather than just like, all right, we're gonna do this, and the next thing we're gonna do is this, as you have, I wanna do this, but the thing I have to do now, I don't know if I can do it. You know, you have to keep that changing.
So what about for creators who maybe aren't making videos for kids? What do you think are some of the things that they could take away from your content, or just things that you're doing that you think work really well in general?
I think, how do I provide value to the audience is something that I don't think people think often enough about. They think about keeping people on the video, or how do I maintain line graph for the average view duration. I think providing value to your audience in whatever it is that you're doing, I think is really important.
What does that actually look like? Like, what does that mean when you say making videos where you're providing value to the viewer?
In whatever content you're making, it always has to be in the back of your mind, the purpose for the content. Because the purpose of the content is not to make you money or to get a bunch of views. Like, the purpose of the content for the individual is to make them laugh, is to educate them, get them excited about a story, is to whatever the purpose of that content is, you have to make sure in the back of your mind that you have that value add to the audience, because they could watch literally anything. But instead, they're choosing to watch you? Why? What value are you providing to that audience? Am I making content because it's on the schedule, or am I providing value to my audience?
So with the Craftee channel, what would you say are some of the biggest things that just contributed to the overall success of the channel?
I think a big thing is we filled kind of a niche in some way. So we hopped in Minecraft at a great time. So Minecraft content was really just picking up in this category. But I think a niche that we were filling is the comedic side of Minecraft content. And so I think we just had that perfect right time for Minecraft, and then we filled that niche, in my opinion, which was comedy. And then coming into more story-based, I think was something that really helped keep us moving and made us stand out from the crowd.
So would you say Craftee's been your most successful project ever?
I would say so. Yeah, 2 billion views is nuts. But on top of like the statistics side, I think it's been something that I've noticed make the most wide reach of impact. So we had a mom reach out to our customer support team. They had purchased a Craftee plushie, and the son, he's 5, was on his 12th surgery, brain tumor, 5 years old. And he could only take one item with him to the hospital during those surgeries. And he took the Craftee plushie with him. And his mom sent a photo of this young kid just sleeping on a bed with the Craftee plushie because it was what brought him strength during those difficult times.
What an incredible story.
Isn't that incredible?
That's insane.
Yeah, you know, we get so lost in AVD and stats and numbers, but like, that's the impact that we can have on these kids.
And if you want to learn even more about how you can grow your YouTube channel, check out my completely free creator bootcamp at the link in the description, or scan the QR code now. And in our bootcamp, we go through a literal step-by-step process to grow your YouTube channel from zero, even if you've never made videos before. And we do this using a method without relying on the YouTube algorithm for views at all. Again, it's completely free. You can check it out at the link in the description, and thanks for watching.